Hey everybody, welcome back to Roma Reviews. I'm Brian.
I'm Casey.
And today we've got the Kia EV6, new for 2023.
The GT line EV6, because there are three varieties of the EV6. There's a 160 horsepower version with under 250 miles of range. I think we're gonna say right now, don't buy that one. There are other options at that same price point that we think are better. But this one has over 200 horsepower, 225-ish, and over 300 miles of range, and some nice interior bits as well that we'll get into.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the exterior of this?
Yeah, let's grab the camera and do a quick walk around, and I'll tell you what I think about it. But why don't you kick us off with at least what you're seeing up front?
So it fits in real nice with the new Kia design language up front. Very familiar, and I think we're big fans of the new, Kia logo that they've gone to over the last few years. The rest of it, very modern. Man.
Why are you struggling with this video? I don't understand.
I'm hungry.
Huh?
I'm hungry.
You're hungry? You're blaming this on being hungry? I don't think so.
Always.
Casey's turned into Captain Giggles, so I'm going to tell you a little bit just about what I think of the exterior of the car. It is very modern, Casey. I think it looks fantastic. Kind of got this starship look to it. I'm not so sure that it's going to age all that well, to be honest. I think we might look back in a couple of years and go, it looks like it was trying a little bit too hard. But look, overall, some really neat features. Check out the mirrors. Really unique design. Kind of some winglets over here on the edge.
Yeah, and let's talk, the integrated door handles. They pop out when you walk up to it. That's kind of a cool feature. Another thing that might not age so well, I don't know. This little indentation here, if you notice that, that's your touch lock and touch open if you
Yeah, it took you like a week to find that.
It did.
I'll be honest, it took me about 2 seconds.
Okay, well, I still blame it on the rain that was going on when it was delivered to me, but regardless.
Let's walk around to the back.
Yeah. Because this is one part of the car that I actually kind of do think will age well. I really like the rear design of this with the tail that wraps all the way around. We have to point out the charging port here that is supposed to pop open with a touch.
Try right up at the top.
Live TV, everybody.
So I haven't quite figured this out, this charge port. And look, I'll be honest, if you can't just walk up and figure something out with a car, that means it's a little too complicated.
There we go.
So a little finicky.
Yeah.
And you know what happened to me the other night? I plugged this thing in and it would not let the charger out. I could not unplug the car until it was fully charged the next morning. And I don't know where that setting is.
Oh. That's a problem.
But that's a problem, and I got to figure that out.
Yeah.
So if folks out there know, leave us a comment. Tell us what's going on there.
Yeah. One thing you'll notice is the charging indicator back here, which I really like. And then, this little button to close it. So I think this is one of the better integrations we've seen of the charging door.
Right.
A lot of places, it's up near the front, near the A-pillar, and I don't think it's hidden all that well. I think they did a good job here. I like this little kind of texture design element that you have here and in this plastic piece too. Another thing I really like is this spoiler. If you notice these little,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. The holes in the fins are pretty cool. The engineers say that they do perform an actual aerodynamic function, as well as channeling air to clean off this rear windshield for you, which is nice because you notice there is no rear wiper blade.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. You talked about the color earlier. This is obviously, something you don't see a lot. The satin kind of finishes that are coming around tend to be a little bit rare and they're kind of premium. I think they look great. This is the best looking color that it comes with, but I will warn you, read up on these because there's a little bit of weird stuff with the care of this kind of finish that you should be aware of before you buy one for yourself.
Fair enough. I do think it looks really good. I've seen these in blue, white, and black in the last 2 days rolling around town. I think this is the best color thus far.
I think you're right, although don't sleep on the red. You don't see very many of them, but I saw one in person and the red looks really sharp in this car.
So I know we need to open up the trunk, but I want to open up the frunk
The
first, because we both noticed something about this that
Yeah.
might drive people a little bit
Yeah.
crazy. Let's go open this up.
Yeah. So, you know, frunks tend to be some of people's favorite things about EVs, and there's no frunk.
There is no frunk, but
Oh, here we go.
so
frunk was
basically a charge cord, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But if we dig a little further,
Aha, yes, we can open this. So they've hidden the frunk under this panel for some reason.
and look
Oh,
at all
wait, no,
this
they didn't.
There's no frunk. There's just a hole, just a service bay, which by our eyes looks like we could have added a little bit more true frunk storage.
Yeah, you know.
So I'm not sure why Kia engineers went that route, you know, whatever. Just a little bit of an aggravation. Would like to see some storage space.
Yeah. And speaking of, why don't we then open up the back?
Okay. Let's do it.
Again, this
No
button-
kick to open. Not that we could tell.
Yeah,
You have
we
to hit
might
a
be
button.
having the same problem that we had with the charging port
We
on
might
that
be.
front. But also, the button is too low. I'm going to complain about that on every car we find.
Fair enough.
But-
It's all people problems.
Right.
All right. Pretty standard stuff. It is a lift back, so
Yeah.
makes it easier to load larger items.
And it's nice and deep, but again, all these like fastback designs encroach on the cargo space. I'm not a fan of that. Underneath here, again, not as much storage as I would have hoped. This comes out completely, and you can have a little bit deeper storage bay down here if you want. And there's not much else going on back here.
No hooks to hang bags on in this.
No, you get like a couple pretty flimsy little cargo strap anchors. You can at least pop down both seats by pulling those levers.
It is nice.
Yeah, but come around and check this out. So now if I want to put these up from here, you can't do it from the back. And you have to pull a lever to get this back up. There's no, it doesn't just pop right back up. You have to pull this lever over here on the side. in
Yeah,
order
that's
to get those
very
to come up.
aggravating. It's kind of a two-handed motion.
Yeah,
And if you've got a bag in your hand or something like that, that just doesn't work.
yeah.
Not the most kid-friendly of vehicles. This is actually something you had on order for a while.
It is. We did order one, and it came in. We had to wait several months, and in that time frame, we kind of decided this isn't the size of car that we wanted. We wanted something a little bit bigger. It was going to be my wife's car, and this just doesn't really fit those needs. Being an EV, there is a nice flat floor here. You get a nice wide door space. The door opens decently wide enough for you. So, I mean, it would be okay. We just don't like putting kids in car seats that low to the ground.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Shall we open it up, fire it up, and take a look inside?
Yes, we should. Do you want to drive or should I?
Let's just check out
Okay.
infotainment, ergonomics first.
Okay. Okay, so inside the Kia EV6, we've got another winner from Kia here. I really like this interior. From a design standpoint, at least, I think this cantilevered center stack is really cool because of the EV architecture. You get a lot of storage space under here. This is probably the best wireless charging port that we've experienced, right? Holds your phone really well. It's in a good spot. It's very convenient. We had two giant tumblers in here. So those fit fine in the cup holders. If you look up here, oh my God, this is... I'm a big fan of breaking up the interior with different colors and textures and things. So you'll notice, you know, we've got this big gray dash with all this.
More about the big gray dash. That's the biggest gray dash I think I've ever seen in my life. Let me get a big close-up of that big gray dash. Oh, wow. Yeah, I got it. Tell people about the inside of the EV6 because I'm exhausted. No way. No way. Tell you guys about the interior of the EV6. So just give me a second while I crawl into the front seat. We do have heated and air-conditioned seat controls up here, which are really nice. They push a lot of air for air-conditioned seats.
They are extremely cold. Although I do have to point out, if anybody's watched any other reviews, there's been a lot of complaints about hitting those heated and cooled seat controls when you tap the other controls up there. And I thought that was a really silly criticism, and then I immediately had that problem when I got in the car.
Yeah, so Casey's describing up here, right now we are looking at radio controls, your tune knob, and your volume knob. But if you hit that button right there, everything flips. Now we've got climate controls, dual climate control, temperature controls on either side, your fan speed, all of that. So you're toggling back and forth. And then if you are doing that, a lot of times you naturally want to rest your hand up here. You're going to hit these buttons as you're going to change your climate controls. We have two beautiful screens up here. That's all the rage with EV design. You've got your navigation and your infotainment over here on the right. And then you've got your driver information display, which is really large. And that's great. Thanks, Kia, for giving us a nice looking, large center stack screen. The problem is the information that I need is way out on the corners. So I've got my speedometer way over here on the left. I've got my range way over here on the right. And depending on your seating position, the size of the steering wheel comes into play. I don't really see that information all that well. I got all of this real estate here in the middle and no good information there. And we haven't found any way to actually change that. I'd love to have just a traditional gauge cluster, speedometer in the middle even, something just a little bit more familiar. It's wasted space.
It is, and what information they do display in the middle, I don't understand the point of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to that when we're driving, but I didn't understand what they were trying to tell me.
I mean, you do get your trip information if you want that. You can have turn-by-turn directions in there. Now, Kia would probably argue, yeah, but on this line, you've got a heads-up display. And it's true, you do have a very large heads-up display, but guess what? For whatever reason, I could not get the images in the heads-up display to work with my glasses and with my eyesight. Everything was out of focus, and basically it was distracting to the point where I had to turn it off. I've never experienced that before in a Kia vehicle with a heads-up display. I don't think you had issues.
I didn't experience that at all. So, but it is something to look out for. Go test drive the car. Yep. Check on that before you spring for that kind of feature.
So let's pivot over to the infotainment screen. Same thing, right? It's a traditional Kia Hyundai family setup, but they've thrown in an extra EV layer on top. This is what you are presented with when you first get into the car: temperature, battery, charge. And then over here on the right is something interesting. You do have like a preview of your nav. So if you kind of know generally where you are, you'll at least be able, as you're driving, to see, hey, I'm coming up on a turn, something like that. To get to the regular display, we'll get back to where we were. You swipe to the right, and you start to get the options that if you've been in a Kia vehicle, you're more familiar with. So you can cycle through to get to settings, cycle back to get to your maps, right? The home button, love the home icon. Wish we had a hard button for that, although I think you can program your favorites button on the steering wheel to do that function. But, you know, one thing that everybody's always interested in, Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. We haven't found wireless Android Auto or CarPlay to be an option on this vehicle. And frankly, the Android Auto isn't that great anyway. It's not full screen. It's not full resolution. If you've been in a car with wireless Android Auto or with a higher resolution full display, this becomes a problem. It's just not that great to look at. It's not that enjoyable of an experience. And back to that wireless option. So the Chevy Bolt that we have, the 2023 EUV, does have wireless Android Auto. As soon as you have that, you'll never want to go back. I don't even plug this in anymore when I get in the car, because that wireless function is so great that it aggravates me to have to reach down. And I do have to reach down under here to grab my cord. There's no charge USB port up here to do that. And it's just one of those little things that once you learn to live with a wireless solution, you don't want to go back. So just something to think about. Hopefully they change that soon.
Yeah, and they did give us a fair bit of charging down there, but I do think it's a miss. If your phone won't charge wirelessly, I would really like to have an option maybe inside
in
the
here.
storage to plug in the phone.
Absolutely. You do get USB-A and USB-C down there, and a couple of cigarette ports as well. So if you do want to have a wired solution, they give you a lot of options.
And since I'm back here, I should point out you've got some charging ports in the sides of the seats for your rear passengers over here as well, which is a feature that we are a fan of and have to point out anytime we see a car with it.
Absolutely. I think it's time to go drive this thing.
All right, let's do it.
All right. All right, guys, as we get settled to go for a drive, Casey is going to go back into the vehicle settings, go back one, go to vehicle. I'm going to turn back on the heads-up display. And I have noticed that the screen is a little bit touchy down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now it's disabled.
So I want to go here. Oh, augmented reality mode. Look at that.
It's great. Nobody home can see it, but that's all right. Then we just go back home.
Okay.
Cool.
And that's good enough. And now I can see my miles per hour since I can't really see it on the display here. So let's go. Now I mentioned earlier there's like 160 something horsepower version of this, and I said don't buy it. And I stand by that. I think at that kind of power and range level, that's kind of an appliance. And if you're shopping for an appliance, this isn't the car for you. I think this does better around this level, which starts at about $51,000 and kind of slots in between something like a Chevy Bolt and then a nicer EV, you know, like a Tesla or something like that. So I would start around here with it. Like I said, 225 horsepower in this one.
Rear wheel drive.
Rear wheel drive. So there's an all wheel drive version that has two motors, and can't remember how many horsepower that one has. It's over 300, yes.
I think that's right. Yeah, that's where you're going to really get your performance. But man, you know, we'll talk about this. This is plenty.
It is plenty.
It's not a crazy party trick, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds like a Tesla or some of the other EVs on the market, but it definitely gets the job done.
It's just enough to have fun. I keep thinking of this as kind of like a hot hatch that's a little more grown up,
right?
You know, so you're getting that kind of mid 200s power level that's like just enough to have fun. I really like driving it around.
And what's really neat about the car is that it does allow you to customize quite a bit and fine tune it to the way that you want the car to behave and to interact with on a daily basis. So right now you're driving in normal mode. We do have different drive modes. We have a button on the steering wheel that allows you to flip over to sport mode. And that's what I've been driving in all week long. I really enjoyed it. It really transformed the experience for me. Throttle response and steering effort. And we have talked forever about Kia and how, for whatever reason, they've been able to dial in electrically assisted steering and make it feel like a traditional hydraulically assisted vehicle. And this is probably the best one yet.
Yeah, every time we get in one, we think they're doing better and better with it. So it steers really great. You can dial in the regen braking too. That's another thing I like. When you went through the screens, all of those things, the throttle response, the steering, the regen braking for your kind of one pedal driving, all of that individually customizable.
That's right. It is all in there. You can dial. You can even go in and customize the sound of the vehicle. I'll even show that to you guys since you're on the ride-along mode for us. So if you go in here to setup, you go back to vehicle, down here, active sound design. So again, finicky screen. Go in to advanced settings. You can select from 3 different out-of-the-box sounds. And then once you picked one, you can actually go in further and you can change the response of the sound. So right now we have the dynamic sound, but in its slowest response. And so you've got this little curve over here. Oh, all right. But if we change it, and I'm gonna increase the volume so people can hear it. Okay, now it's in its most aggressive sound response. So when you floor it, or even just a little bit, it comes on really quick.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing we'll tell you is once you get into this type of a sound setup and with the volume and with a fast response, it tends to drone.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of it in that setting.
So we tend to knock this back down, put it on its slowest response, and then it really only comes on when you floor it, which is about right, especially if you're driving around without the radio on. It's nice. All right.
All right.
So put your turn signal on.
Yeah.
Check that out. We do have blind spot monitoring.
And we've got another one over here. That's one of those things that I really only think Kia's doing right now. Kia, Hyundai.
Yeah.
And everybody should do it. I don't understand why everyone's not doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah. What do you think so far just about ride quality?
It's good. I haven't noticed it, and that's kind of the best thing you can say about it, right? You know, there's a lot of those kind of sharp bumps in the concrete on this route, and I don't feel them at all in this.
You really don't. One thing that shocked me this week was speed bumps. I've got several at work, in the garages. This thing going over speed bumps is extremely compliant. Like, it really soaks them up well. Not a lot of like second degree motions or anything like that, or vibrations in the car. And just compared to any other car that we've driven recently, that was the most impressive thing to me. Because when you're out on the highway, this thing is a smooth sailing vehicle, plenty of power, very confidence inspiring. But to be able to do that with, you know, bumps in the road, cracks, speed bumps, that's a nice trick. They did a good job with it.
That's good. I should point out, I know you guys can't see it, but since you didn't spend any time with the heads-up display this week, you know, I'll point out, I think there's a lot of good information on there that's integrated really well. A lot of heads-up displays can get really busy, and people will just turn them off because it's flashing stuff at them, and I don't have that problem at all. And here, it has my blind spot monitoring stuff on it, but again, it's like a seamless little warning. I like that a lot.
So I just want to wrap up the driving part of this. Since you're over here in the driver's seat, I just get to sit here and comment. I drove this thing all week, back and forth to work, 80% highway. As the week went on, I never got tired of driving it. In fact, I wanted to drive it more and more. So really good from an acceleration standpoint, steering standpoint, comfort. The closest thing I could come up with was something like an Audi S4 Avant, or that classic German wagon with just the right amount of power and handling built in, kind of like at 80% of everything.
Yeah.
Like not the fastest, not the sharpest handling, but really, really good all the way around. And I just found it to be a very enjoyable vehicle. And you know, at first we didn't quite know what to make of it, but to be honest, I'll be really sad to see it go.
I agree. We can just cut it then. It's sad to see it go. We don't have to have.
I agree. I agree.
Walk up to the car. Okay.
Okay, guys, that's it for the Kia EV6. We hope you enjoyed the review. I think all in all, really competent EV. You know, Casey, you had one on order. You regret your decision not to buy the car?
I don't, just because it doesn't really work for our family situation right now. However, I will say I was even more impressed than I anticipated being. You know.
I would agree with that. You know, we have a Bolt EV, we've got a hybrid Wrangler, but this was an absolute blast to drive. If that's something you're looking for, go check it out. Because at 50 grand for everything that you get, 300 miles of range, decent power, good handling, good looks, it's gonna be hard to beat.
It will.
Hey, thanks for checking out Roma Reviews. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all of those fun things, hit the notification bell, things we're supposed to say, and we'll see you next time.
YouTubers.
YouTubers.
Awkward wave.
Awkward wave. Bye.